if anyone knows what the unfolding of truth is in Washington, it's Steve Bassett. Thanks for being here, Steve.
What you're about to hear is nonpartisan. I know that there are people always looking for that little something where they go, if you think you found something, it's not really there. This is an absolute nonpartisan statement that I'm trying to make. In fact, this is the first time I'm actually going to put this statement out, this presentation out, but it's so important. I'm sending out a blast to all 300 of the podcast venues that I've done in the past, requesting that they try to start getting me on no later than about September 2 going forward. All right, September 10 rather going forward. So that'll be going out soon. Okay, what am I talking about? First of all, a quick update. September is going to be very big. The UFO Disclosure Act was submitted to the Senate. I don't think they voted, but they're going to vote. If not, they will vote as soon as they come back in September 2, 3. It will almost certainly pass. Then it's going to be submitted to the House. Only this time they're going with the approach of submitting it in whole and getting co-sponsors. And Representative Burleson has agreed to co-sponsor it. Maybe some others will join up. So it's a little different tack, but that's going to attract a lot of attention. There's almost certainly going to be a hearing in September. Burleson has made it clear that's what he wants. He is now essentially running the UAP portfolio of the task force. And very good guy, very authentic, very nice. I had a 5-hour dinner with him with some other people not too long ago. And I'm sure that he wants to do something significant here. I expect that to happen. I expect some additional witnesses to come forward. So September is going to be very significant on that basis alone, but something else is going on. How can I describe it? Right now, there are two huge issues, two huge problems that the government is facing. Enormous in different ways. One is facing essentially the Department of Defense and the military intelligence complex. All of that is that the policy of embargoing the truth about this non-human presence for 80 years is under relentless attack, and it is starting to yield. It's not clear if it's about to break. However, there's an inevitability about it, and I think they recognize that. And so they're staring down near term, midterm, whatever, the inevitability that this is going to end, the truth embargo is going to end, and they're going to have to deal with that, answer questions or whatever, hopefully in a responsible way. This, of course, is, in my view, the biggest issue in the world that needs to be resolved, and they are staring directly at it as it becomes increasingly impossible to overlook. Right now, it's no longer about whether the phenomenon is real. There's hardly anybody that's not saying that. The DOD is agreeing it's real. The Congress is agreeing it's real. Now it's about well, if it's real, what is it? Well, we know what it is. It's a technologically advanced non-human presence, which includes tech from pick one location or pick one source. But there's another major problem of a different type. And it is what I think is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the United States. It is the Epstein scandal. I spent a lot of time paying attention to this. In fact, that's all I do is pay attention to that and the ET issue and the rest of the politics going on. And the articles are pouring forward. Investigative reporters from different publications, Daily Beast, Counterpunch, and others are coming out with new material, which is starting to demonstrate how vast this is. It takes in banks, high-level financiers, billionaires, and of course, a lot of other famous people. And it has been, how would you say, percolating for a very long time, like a volcano that occasionally throws a little, ash up into the air, a little smoke, maybe a bit of lava, and then one day the thing just erupts. Well, this thing is about to erupt, and it's going to be a Mount St. Helens. And here is the problem. We reached a point where the president of the United States, who clearly is involved in this in various ways, is staring down a situation which now simply cannot be dismissed or made to go away. It's not possible to go over it or under it or around it, and it's certainly not possible to make it disappear. It is going to happen. And then the president and many, many others are going to have to deal with it. And let me tell you, this is going to be something. All right. So you've got two huge issues, both of which are being stared down by two parts of our government, the executive branch and the military intelligence complex. And that's interesting and important, except that I believe they have just become connected. And that's where things get really interesting. What am I getting at? When you are facing something extremely controversial and potentially damaging, something awful, and you can't get around it or over it or under it, you simply can't run from it, then you only have one option left, and that is to distract from it, divert from it, and mitigate it. Now, what do I mean by that? Something that is able to draw attention away from it in a very substantial way, and something that would also mitigate the negatives and the outcome of it that is expected. That is the only option left. All right. And so with respect to the administration, there has been already article after article about the fact that the White House, the administration, is looking for a distraction. And everything that happens, whether it's the summit in Alaska or whatever else turns up, it's viewed as it's a distraction. They're trying to distract away from this inevitable dilemma that is heading for them like a freight train. These distractions are nothing, absolutely nothing. The only distraction that would measure up to what I'm talking about, I mean, a diversion rather, and distraction would be a nuclear war. That would do the trick. But of course, we don't want that. And so they have got to come up with something that will distract and divert. It's not going to make it go away, but it will buy time. It will give them opportunity to, I guess, try to find ways to mitigate the outcome. And if the action that is takes place is extremely positive, then obviously that will seriously help mitigate the dilemma that they face, that they cannot get away from. And so here is what is finally taking me to the place that I'm going to describe to you right now. The first clue was 6 months ago, 7 months ago, when 5 days before the inauguration of the president, the son of the president, who has a podcast, who doesn't now, called Triggered, of all people, brought on Ross Coulthart and Lou Elizondo to talk about ET, UAP, whatever, disclosure, for 2 hours. That's not an accident. It's not like, oh, gee, I just need some guests. Let me get these guys. My father's going to be inaugurated in 5 days, but, no problem. Not a chance in hell. That was deliberate. It was an attempt to bring the issue out in a soft way at a podcast, fairly safe, before the president even takes office again, to get a test, to read the room, to see how people would react to it. How would it go down, right? It went down fine. No problem. Positive, no blowback, nothing. All good. Fine. And then the president took office. And then over the next 7 months, the president has had to deal with a lot of stuff and has done a lot of stuff. And so we are going through one of the most complicated, difficult times in American history, right? Which has made it a little more difficult to kind of sort things out, no matter what you're talking about. But as time has gone forward, this issue has continued to advance, no matter what has been going on, no matter how much attention it's demanding from the media, this issue is always there and always moving forward. Okay, fine. And I'm wondering, okay, what's going to happen here? And then 12, 14 days ago, it started to happen, right? Very simple. And again, this has never happened before, period. All right? Out of nowhere, the vice president goes on a podcast. Remember, soft outlet. It's not official. It's kind of safe, just like the Triggered podcast that Don Jr. did. And what does the vice president, sitting vice president, say? He's obsessed with UFOs. He allows the topic to come up and says that and a number of other things. That immediately generates a whole bunch of articles. I've got 60 up there on my website right now in the print media archive. Go read them all, right? And that's paradigmresearchgroup.org. And I'm going, well, that's really interesting. All right. That's no accident. A vice president doesn't go on a podcast and decide, I think I'll talk about ETs. In fact, or UFOs or UAP. In fact, I think I'll mention that I'm obsessed with it. No. 3 days later, the director of national intelligence, which is a pretty important office, Tulsi Gabbard, she goes on a podcast. Not a particularly well-known one as far as I know, but whatever, it's a podcast. And she allows the subject to come up. And she mentions that, you know, she's interested in that and this and what have you, but clearly makes it clear that she can talk about that. Fine. 5 or 6 days later, we go to what I consider the penultimate event. The chairman of the UAP task force, not the UAP, the Secrets Task Force of the House Oversight Committee, who is all over the news, who was tasked initially, or has been tasked, to go after some of the most important and controversial issues of our time, the JFK assassination, lots of documents coming out, MLK assassination, things are in the works, also RFK, and also the Epstein Files. Quite a, how would you say, a work list, to say the least. So much so that she had to essentially offload or provide, give the UAP portfolio to one of the Secrets Task Force members, and that's Burleson. And by the way, they also hired Grush, so that's not that big a deal. So that's happening. That's fairly significant. She goes on Rogan, the podcast that played a significant role in electing her boss, well, not her boss, rather, but her president, and gave an interview for 2 hours that will ultimately be seen by 20 million people, easy. And what does she do? She talks about the issues of getting witnesses and this and that and the hearings and so forth. And she gets asked questions and start to discuss the things that she has seen. Whether she was really supposed to say anything in certain areas remains to be seen. I don't care. But in answering these questions, she says, I have seen this document, I have seen this, I have seen that, and these have shown me, and she's asked directly on this, that we have non-humans here, meaning technically advanced non-humans, and we have the non-human craft, exactly what Grush said. Now, it doesn't matter where they're from. She goes even further and gives her view that her sense from what she's told is they're interdimensional. Look, Anna Paulina Luna is not a physicist. And so she's hearing things and she's trying to assess it. And so she's leaning toward interdimensional source. Does that mean that's where they're from? No, not necessarily. I'm inclined to go another way. It doesn't matter. The point is that she is saying this on Rogan's podcast. It is now going all over the world. There is no way that Anna Paulina Luna goes on that podcast simply because she just feels like talking about the work she's doing and allowing the ET issue to come out and talk about there is, in fact, a non-human presence. That is not an accident. And when you put all of that together, those 3 occurrences in just 13 days, go read all the articles. It'll confirm everything I've just told you. Combine that with the podcast just before the inauguration, and this is what I see happening. In order to deal with the unbelievable scandal that is coming, that is going to affect a lot of people in a very bad way, right? I think a decision has been made that this is the issue that is going to be used as the diversion and mitigator in this matter, and that he is being set up to tell us that we are not alone, wherever the hell they're from. In other words, capital D disclosure, as I define it. If the president comes out and says that It is true. We do have these visitors from somewhere. They're not human. That is disclosure right then. Capital D, disclosure. Now, that doesn't mean everything is coming out. It doesn't mean that you're going to hear this or that or anything else. It just means that we crossed that line. And that from that point forward, things are going to change. Information is going to come out rapidly. You're going to have a UAP Disclosure Act. You're going to have more hearings and witnesses who are going to be much more willing to come forward. And then you're going to have other heads of state confirm it. Now, you may say, what's the benefit here? Oh, what is the benefit? Let's be clear. If the president already has a platform in which to walk out and do this, he's had it for some time. It's been built over the last 7 years with legislation and hearings and massive media coverage and witnesses coming forward. There's more than enough platform. If he walks out tomorrow and does it, people go, like, hey, yeah, that's cool. Makes sense to me, Mr. President. But not quite there yet. What is happening now is they're building the stairs that he can walk up and do it. They're giving him the basis for why he needs to go out and do it. And this is what will happen if he does. In that moment, he becomes the disclosure president. 13 other presidents had the opportunity to do this. They chose not to. And they all knew they had that opportunity. I can assure you, it doesn't matter to how much they knew about the overall history and subject matter. They all knew they could do it. They chose not to do it. But he does it. And he is the disclosure president. He has just triggered the most profound event in human history. And he will be backed up by other heads of state very quickly. And let us just use common sense here. And the aftermath of that announcement, the Jeffrey Epstein thing is going to be moved over here, and the world is going to be utterly focused, not just the American people, the entire world is going to be focused on what happens next. And as other heads of state come forward, it'll just expand the interest. It will be overwhelming. Now, is the Epstein scandal going to just be gone? No, it's going to be put over here. And we'll move into the post-disclosure world. Will he get a Nobel? Yeah, this is a Nobel. It's a lock guaranteed Nobel Prize. For real, right? Wow, that helps. But the Epstein scandal is not going away, and it will eventually erupt. And it will be awful. And there's going to be a lot of tough stuff to deal with. There's going to be a lot of unpleasantness. However, no matter how bad it is for any of the members of the administration, and I'm just talking there, I don't know about the financiers and the bankers and some other people, they're screwed. But in terms of the government, people are going to be going, look, that's awful. That's bad. We're not happy about that. But boy, are we happy about what you just did. That you have ended this 80-year lie and taken us into another world. And by God, we really appreciate that. That is what I mean by mitigation. It mitigates the situation. And it results in probably a very different near future for the president. Now, how that plays out, I do not know. I know the scandal is incredibly bad. How bad is still not clear. But whatever, it will be better. It will not make it go away, but it will put the president and anybody else directly connected to the president into this scandal in a place where people are going to be far more generous about how they respond and their willingness to forgive. And that is as big as it gets. And so I think that is exactly what is going down. It is the only way that explains the statements from Donald Trump Jr., Gabbard, Luna, Vance. I am waiting very, very intensely to see which other member, high-level member of this administration does another podcast. In other words, they've had 4 podcasts to safely read the public's reaction, and it has been all positive. The press is positive. Everybody thinks it's great. And you want to talk about some other stuff that's going on? Not so much. So this is not a difficult equation to solve. If anybody is advising the president, and I think they are, they should be asking, you need to do this. This is the one thing you can do that will change everything and make whatever time you have left in office an entirely different matter. And whatever goes down, politically. You will always have this. You will always have that legacy. You will always be the disclosure president. And that's a little bit long, but that's the message that I'm going to be conveying. And I'm inviting everybody to now start looking at everything that's happening, particularly with any members of the administration, and listen carefully to what they're saying. And if somebody's going to turn up on a podcast, watch it, because I don't think this is over. I think you're going to see a few more people come forward to help set the stage. And it would be fast. It would happen so quickly. A number of press, just top press, not just a general press conference, 8, 9, 10 of the top news entities out there would be asked to come in special press conference. Tight, president walks out, stands in front of them, makes the confirmation, thanks them for coming, does not take questions. Why? You don't take questions after an announcement like that. There are 10 million questions that could be asked. The president is not sitting with a vast amount of knowledge that he can sort of respond. So you don't subject yourself to that. You simply say, fine. Of course, all hell breaks loose. They go back, the story breaks, but the president or somebody spokesperson would say, look, in about 5 or 6 days, we're going to hold another press conference. We're going to have 15, 20 top experts related to every aspect of this available for you to ask questions of. Right? And they can come in and they will answer the millions of questions that are in the minds of every journalist out there and the American people and the world's people, and take us even deeper into the post-disclosure world. That's my call. We'll see what happens.
Well, that is
I've
great.
got a couple of questions I got to ask. First off, how do you think they will frame it? Will they frame it as the extraterrestrial influence is a threat? Or do you think that they will frame it as we're still gathering information? So that's question number one. And then second question is, there are rumors swirling that a lot of powerful people want Trump out and JD Vance to come in. And I don't know, you're in Washington, you know much more. Is there anything to that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And that's partisan stuff, in a sense, internal battles, doesn't matter. But to answer your first question, if I'm the advisor to the president, you just go out and you confirm, like Luna did on Rogan, but with a much bigger audience. Yeah, we have non-human bodies. We have non-human built technology. We might have actually non-humans, whatever. And you want to know more, I'm confirming it. And now you'll get a chance to ask some experts those questions later. Now, how those experts, which include scientists and military and a whole range of people, if they're smart, how they're going to cast it, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that the number of people that will be watching that press conference will be in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
Number of influencers and podcasters in the tens of thousands. And that if they want to play games with it, they're going to have to answer to the internet, right? So my suggestion would be play it absolutely straight. Don't try to pull any fast ones, because the world is going to be, well, you're going to be facing the biggest audience you'll ever see in your lifetime, and they expect the truth and nothing but the truth. So hopefully that's what we'll get.
Okay, so Steve, thank you. I love your passion. You're always coming up with the next disclosure president, and maybe you're right this time because you've been on this, and I think we're close. First of all, though, Trump has not been so excited about the topic personally. He just had an opportunity to comment on the drones. He said, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Don't worry. Don't think about it. He got it under control. See, he shies away from the top. His son doesn't, but he does. Also, is he, let's just say, maybe smart enough or aware enough to know how valuable this subject is to his clearing the decks on all the other stuff he's involved in?
But the president, there's no upside for the president to say anything enthusiastic. The president's going to keep his distance. He hasn't come out and said this whole thing is nonsense. No, but he's not going to get into it. He's letting his son get into it. He's letting Vance get into it. In other words, what I say by building a platform, what they're doing is they're feeling out what the public's response will be. They're trying to read the room,
Mhm.
and they're getting nothing but pretty much positives here. Nothing but positives. And the Rogan thing is the ultimate. This is the guy that helped get him elected. Now he is just the guy that has taken the core message from Anna Paulina Luna to the world. Now,
Mm.
think about it. Do you think that Donald Trump, if he really doesn't want to touch this, is going to let, or is going to not make, at least make an effort to prevent her from going on Rogan and saying that? You think that all of this has come sort of a random thing? It isn't. It is completely orchestrated. And we've known for some time that he's gotten some briefings. That has happened. Now, how extensive they were doesn't matter. He's gotten some briefings. That's been mentioned going back even to his first term. So it's been bubbling behind the surface. It's there, but he has a lot of things on his plate. But what he hasn't had is a powerful motivation to turn to this issue. He has these other issues that he's very much involved in. Now he has that motivation. The Epstein scandal does not leave any room but distraction.
It's an epic moment in history. We'll see. I think if this scenario plays out, we're probably months or weeks away from this. One more question I have for you, and maybe I could save it for the Hertogs. In the UAP amendment that's going through the NDAA, there's something called eminent domain, where the government has a right to go in and confiscate any material from private industry or individuals related to the UFO UAP phenomena. Is that something private industry is easily going to give up? I mean, there's obviously they have it, they have this material in their reverse engineer. Are they really going to come forward and say, yeah, we got it, we're going to give it to you? Or are they going to deny, which is what they've been doing?
Well, again, you gotta think in terms of disclosure. If the president comes out, confirms the presence of this non-human stuff, all the stuff we've been hearing about, basically saying it's true, and there's the huge majority, 90% plus of everything that's been learned through the research of the citizens over these last 80 years is true. Okay, and once he does that, then hey, the Congress can debate eminent domain until hell freezes. I don't care. They may get it, they may not get it. What difference does it make? Okay. The reason that they fought back before is because we had no disclosure, and basically the position of the government, including even Arrow, was that no, there's really not here yet. We don't know what it is, but it's not real. And so yeah, they push back. Disclosure ends all of that, right? You want to play games, you're gonna have to play it in the open with cameras watching. And so if you really have a problem with eminent domain, you're going to come out and say, yeah, we would not want that. Let's talk about it. Now, of course, they're going to have to admit they've had it all along. That's no problem. They didn't break the laws. Yeah, we did a lot of research. We did a lot of re-engineering. Yeah, we expect something from it, and we don't like eminent domain. Let's talk about it. That's the way it should be. Instead of having all of the expenditures, monies, and policies and everything else going on, a vast history and costing huge amounts of money, and telling the world's people and the United States people, there's nothing there. There's nothing going on. We're not doing anything. That's obscene, and it's undermining the social contract. Disclosure ends all of that, and we start dealing with the issue. Doesn't mean it's all going to be easy. It's not going to be controversial, but we start dealing with the issue like adults. And the American people are considered adults in this case, in this instance, and they're going to be able to participate in what goes forward. That's the way it always should have been. And hopefully it now can be, because we're running out of time. If Jeffrey Epstein brings about disclosure in this crazy way, what can I say, man? History is crazy and wild, and you go with the flow and hope for the best.